All right, so in our prior video, we were given a point slope form and we were able to find the slope and the coordinate from it. This lesson, we're just going to do the opposite. So goal number one, I can write a linear equation in point slope form given a slope and coordinate on a graph. And the second goal is I can write a linear equation in point slope form given two coordinates on a graph. So on that one, they're not going to give us the slope, just two coordinates. But from those two coordinates, we're going to be able to find the slope. So let's get started. Once again, a linear equation looks like the following. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. That is point slope form. M represents the slope. And x1, y1 in this equation represents a coordinate of the graph. Okay, so m is the slope, and then y1 and x1, that's the coordinate that we get from the slope. So writing a linear equation in point slope form given the slope and a coordinate on the graph, what you're going to do is you're going to place the slope in the m position. So whatever you're going to place whatever the slope is right here. And then after that, they're going to give you the x1. You're going to place the x1 in this position. And you are going to use a subtraction sign. So basically, it's the opposite of whatever they give you because you're subtracting it. And then you're going to put the y1 in that position with the subtraction sign. Or the opposite of whatever they give you. Because if they give you a negative, minus a negative would turn into a plus. I'll show you some examples of those. Okay? So here they give us a slope of 2 and a coordinate of negative 2, 4. So just label these. This would be our m. This is our x1, and this is our y1. Because coordinates always do the x first and the y second. So let's go ahead and put our slope down on this side of the equal sign. We're going to have some parentheses here. Okay, and in the front, we're always going to have our y, and then we're going to minus the y1. This is the y1, so we're going to put a 4 right here. Then we always put an x right here. And then we would put minus negative 2. But minus negative 2 is just the exact same thing as saying x plus 2. So notice the 4 is a minus 4 and the negative 2 is a plus 2. So one way to think about it is you just think about it as you're writing down the opposite of the coordinate that they give you. Okay? And then the slope obviously always goes right here in front of your parentheses. All right, over here, this got cut off. This is a 3 and this is a negative 7. Okay, so let's write our entire equation. So we're going to do y. Remember, this is our x1, this is our y1, this is our slope. So y, and it's a negative 7, so the opposite would be plus 7. So we have y plus 7 equals the slope, which is negative 2/3, and then parentheses x. And our x1 they gave us is 3, so what's the opposite of 3? It would be a minus 3. And that is the equation of a line that has a slope of negative 2/3 and goes through the coordinate 3, negative 7. All right, let's do another one. So we're going to do y. So let's see, let's write this down. y1 and x1, and this is my slope. So we're going to do y1 is negative 5, so we're going to do the opposite. We're going to write plus 5 equals, the slope is 1. Do I have to write down the 1 for the slope? You don't. I'm going to do it right now just as a placeholder. And then we have x. x1 is a positive 2, so we're going to write negative 2. So we have y plus 5 equals 1 times x minus 2. Now, to do this properly, it actually would look like this. We would say y plus 5 equals, and then you would just have an x minus 2. You don't have to write the 1 down for the slope. Okay, over here, we're going to do y, this is y1, which is a negative 8, so we're going to do the opposite and say y plus 8 equals, the slope is negative 3. Now, what do we see for the x1? x1 is just a 0. So we could write it as x plus 0, but we don't really need to write down that 0. So technically the correct way, or this would be correct. If you put this as an answer, you would get it correctly. But the proper way, I guess I should say, would be y plus 8 equals, and then we would just say negative 3x. But you could write it either way, and you would get it correct on your assignment. All right, now what if they just give us 2 coordinates? Okay, we have to think back. Do you know how to find the slope if all we have is 2 coordinates? And hopefully you can remember, oh, I have something called the slope formula. So we can use the slope formula to find the m, okay? Then we choose one of the coordinates to complete the equation. We place the x from the quadrant coordinate in the x1 position, and place the y from the coordinate in the y1 position. And don't forget that the form uses subtraction. So once again, we're going to be doing opposite signs. Okay, so let's take a look at this first example. We have 2, 3, and 4, 7 for our coordinates. So we're going to call this x1 and y1. And we're going to call this x2 and y2. So we're going to find our slope by doing y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Let's do that first. All right, so y2 is 7. I'm going to use parentheses. Subtract y1, which is 3. And the parentheses just help me keep track of my signs. Over x2, which is 4, minus x1, which is 2. So 7 minus 3 is 4. 4 minus 2 is 2. And 4 divided by 2 is 2. So there's my slope. Okay, so let's just go with our first coordinate, and let's put it into our point slope form. So we're going to do y. So I'm just going to use this coordinate right here. If you choose the second one, that's okay. It's the same line still. So we get y minus 3. So we're doing the opposite of this one. Equals m, which is 2. And then x, opposite of this one, would be minus 2. And there is the equation of my graph. Okay, let's try it over here. Okay, so this is going to be x1, y1, x2, y2. So for the slope, we're going to do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So negative 7 minus negative 1. When you minus a negative, it's the same thing as adding. So negative 7 plus 1 is negative 6. And then 4 minus 1 is 3. Negative 6 divided by 3 gives me a slope of negative 2. All right, let's go ahead and write it in our point slope form. So we're going to do y. I'm just going to choose this first coordinate. Okay, what's the opposite of negative 1? It's a positive 1, so y plus 1 equals your slope. And then x, what's the opposite of positive 1? We get a minus 1. So we get y plus 1 equals negative 2 times x minus 1. Okay, let's do one more example. Let's go ahead and do this one, or this second one over here. Okay, so this is x1, y1, x2, y2. So for the slope, we're going to do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. 5 minus 4 is 1. 3 minus 0 is 3. So I get a slope of 1/3. All right, let's just go ahead and choose one of the coordinates. I'm just going to go with the first one again. And we get y minus 4, because the opposite of 4 is -4, equals 1/3. Now what's my x1? It's 0. So remember, you could say x plus 0. It's not necessary. It would be correct technically. Or you could write it as y minus 4 equals 1/3 x. And not worry about the 0. Either one of those will work. So our goals, I can write a linear equation in point-slope form, given a slope and a coordinate on a graph. And your second goal, I can write a linear equation in point-slope form, given 2 coordinates on a graph. So good luck with your assignment, and let me know if you have any questions.